I'm Rhonda, and I'm giving my leadership presentation for Dr. Merle's class. The leader I chose was Mary Jo Hatch, and the title I gave it is Bringing the Corporation into Corporate Branding. Something I hadn't thought about before. She's really very interesting, and the reason I chose her is because she's still active today. I think it's a little bit more interesting to do leaders that are active today, and that we can use their information. Dr. Merle's got lots of good information about all these leaders. I think it's really impressive how he knows so many of these leaders personally, and if I had that kind of knowledge, I can't even imagine where I could be today. Okay, Mary Jo Hatch, a little bit of biography about her. She's a professor at the McIntire School of Commerce, University of Virginia, up in Charlottesville, Virginia. She works with Maiken Schultz, or Macon, I don't actually know how you pronounce the name, from Copenhagen Business School in Denmark. And together they've written several books. Mary Jo Hatch has written several books and articles, and they're super interesting. In fact, when I was doing some of this research, I got so wrapped up in an excerpt from one of the books that I kind of got carried away and had to put that back. When I'm finished with this class, I want to go back and actually read that book and get some of the information. Mary Jo Hatch received her PhD from Stanford in 1995, and she goes all over teaching people some of her leadership skills. All right, when we talk about some of the organization theory along with all this, she uses a modern, symbolic, and postmodern perspective when she's out there teaching everybody about her leadership styles. And as I said, she does the corporate branding within companies. These are some companies that we're all familiar with. I'm sure you're familiar with British Airways. Legos is what Mary Jo Hatch did a big study on, helping Legos become who they are. And Procter & Gamble, Nissan, Canon. They're increasingly seeing the benefit of a corporate branding strategy, but to get the most out of such an approach, there's three essential elements that must be aligned, and that's their vision, their culture, and their image. And one thing that she really emphasized is you don't want just a product branding, you want the whole corporate branding so that it's associated. When you think of Nissan, you think of all of Nissan, or you think of Canon, everything to do with Canon. Okay, so she said be careful not to just label one thing, because if that specific product goes bad within the company, the whole company loses its recognition and name along with that. Whereas if you have a corporate branding, it's more, it engulfs everything within there. Okay, a couple things to look at with corporate branding is the scope and the scale of it. When you're looking at that, the product, it's one product or service of a group is closely related products. But the corporate looks at it as an entire enterprise, which includes all corporation and all stakeholders. When we look at origins of brand identity, if you're looking at just a product, it's the advertiser's imagination informed by market research. But as a corporate, when we're looking at the whole corporate picture of it again, we have our company's heritage, their values and beliefs, members of the enterprise that are held in common. Another thing to look at when you're talking about corporate branding is who's your target audience. All right, if you're just looking at a product, you're probably just looking at the customer for that product. But on a corporate scale, there's multiple stakeholders. You have your employees, your managers, customers, investors, partners. Even politicians fall into that role of the target audience. Here we have to look at the responsibility for the corporate branding. Again, if we just looked at the product part of it, the product brand manager and staff, the advertising, and the sales department would be the people that have the responsibility for it. But if we're going to look at the corporate responsibility, we have our CEO or any executive team from marketing We have HR, there's the strategy, there's the design development. There's a lot more people involved in looking at it from a whole corporate responsibility when it comes to this branding. And then the last step on it is the planning horizon. Now, if we look at it again from a product view, it's only for the life of the product. But corporate, we have it for the life of the company. And that's what Mary Jo Hatch is trying to get across is, you want that whole corporate value, not just a specific product that we're going to look at. Okay, some successful corporate brands. Their strategic vision, the culture has to support it. Okay, if you have the stakeholder images, they need to be aligned to that global vision. And then again, we have the whole organizational culture. There'll be some coherence between what the company's top managers want to accomplish in the future, what's always been done or believed, basically what's known by company employees, and then what its external stakeholders expect or desire from the company. So these are all things that help make that successful or that corporate brand successful within the company itself. So we want to create some recognition within it so that the product is associated with the corporate branding. Creates the product brand recognition. We have a type of family branding or an umbrella brand that encompasses everything. It'll increase the scope of a product. One advertising campaign can be used for several products, and then it can incorporate touch points. You have your logo, your customer service, some treatment or training of the employees. I mentioned earlier that Mary Jo Hatch was big into the Lego study, and following that branding process, these 4 progressive phases was stating the brand, linking the vision to culture and brand image, involving the stakeholders in a brand relevant activity, and then integrating that organization behind the brand. So during the strategic shift, the Lego's top management vision, organization, culture, and stakeholder became increasingly aligned. So they were all working on that same sheet of music, or that same brand, if you want to put it in that term there. All right, I mentioned some of the touch points earlier as something to keep in mind when you're talking about the branding. You want to look at the logo, their customer service that the corporation is going to offer. We said the treatment and training of employees. We want to make sure that we treat our employees good. We want to train them so they can be successful and continue their progression within the company also. Packaging, advertising, some stationery, quality of the products or services. I think we all want good quality of products and services no matter what we buy. And then a couple more examples of this corporate branding. We have Disney, we have our IBM Smarter Planet. And when you think about these, just say the word Disney, I believe we all get a big picture of what Disney is. IBM Smarter Planet, same thing. We have our GE Eco Imagination, Coca-Cola Company, Live Positively, the Dow Human Element, and Heinz. So you can see how this corporate branding really encompasses everything within that corporation, without putting a specificity on any specific single product within the company. Okay, and then another thing with Mary Jo, she wants people to understand this different type of corporate branding and how it all works together. And as I was researching her, it was hard to find a lot of specific information about her. It was mostly the articles that she's written and the books that she's written. But I did find a few things, and one of them that popped up was this seminar. A lot of these leaders that Dr. Merle's even talked about, he's gone out and done teaching and mentioned different seminars and stuff. And he likes to go out and do these speaking engagements. So my recommendation to you guys is, if you find a leader that you really like, or several leaders that you like the way that they think and where they're coming from, go out and look at, see if you can get into some of these seminars. This one in particular, I wrote a few prices down for it, and as a student, you actually get a better rate than anybody else. Okay, just in case anybody has any free time in May, there's this conscious leadership and marketing seminar at Bentley University. It's for business leaders, academics, students, consultants, and you can see the difference in the rates. As a student rate, you get get in there for $195 for a 2-day conference. And when I went to this website and looked at the actual seminar, there must have been 20 different people that were speaking during this seminar time, giving their views and what's worked for them and what hasn't worked, and mistakes that they've done, because we know we all learn from our mistakes the most as a leader and manager. And so $195 is an excellent rate to get into that. Whereas you can see if you're working for a corporation somewhere, they have to pay right at $700 to you to get into this same type of training. So that's my recommendation to you guys if you can get into anything. And that's all I have on Mary Jo Hatch. I hope you guys enjoyed as much as I did. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask me in the class. Thanks.